The next fill up says Sunil will collect something more seeds to be equal to Vicky. Okay. So Vicky, as we can see, he has collected 42 seeds and Sunil has collected 38 seeds. So we have to find out how many more seeds does Sunil need to get in order to be equal to Vicky. So what we can do in this case? We can write Vicky's seeds, that is 42, and we can write Sunil's number of seeds, that is 38, and we can do subtraction between the two. If we subtract the number of seeds Sunil has got as compared to Vicky, we can find out how many more seeds does Sunil need to get in order to be equal to Vicky. So 12 over here, it would be a 3 and this would turn into a 12. So 12 minus 8 would be 4 and 3 minus 3 is 0. So that means Sunil needs 4 more seeds in order to be equal to Vicky, right? Okay, let's move on for the third one. If Radhika gets 6 more seeds, she will have something. Okay, so let's look at how many seeds does Radhika have. She has 24 seeds. So if she gets 6 more seeds, she will have how many seeds? So what we can do? We can do 24 add 6. If we do 24 add 6, then what do you think we would get? 30, right? So 24 add 6 is 30. We have got 30 over here. So we can write 30. Let's move on. How many children have more than 40 seats? So over here, as we can see the count, Radhika has 24, which is less than 40. Gauri has 47, which is more than 40. So we can write Gauri. Then Sunil has 38, which is less than 40. Indra has 54, which is more than 40. And Vicky has 54, which is more than 40. So these children are a bit more hard working. They have more than 40 seats. Someone needs 3 more seeds to have 50. Okay, so let's see which person can have just 3 more seeds and they'll reach to 50. So like if we talk about Radhika, she is very far away from 50, so she can't add another 3 and get to 50. Gauri, she has 47. So if we add a 3 to 47, how much should we get? 47 add 3, 7 add 3 is a 10, and 4 add 1 is a 5. So Gauri has got 50 seats if she adds 3 more. So we can write Gauri over here. Now at last, Sunil has 2 seeds less than 40 and something has 2 seeds more than 40. Okay, so if we see Sunil's number of seeds, they are 38. Yes, he has 2 seeds less than 40, but we have to find out the person who has 2 seeds more than 40. So as we can see over here, we have Vicky. He has 42 and 42 is 2 more than 40. That means Vicky has 2 seeds more than 40. Okay, so this was all about the basic counting that we use in our daily lives, and let's move on and see what we have next. Okay, we have another interesting question. Dhoni's century. One day, a match between India and South Africa in Guwahati, India battling first. Dhoni on 96, only one ball left. Will he complete his century? And look at this. What a marvelous 6. Okay, so the commentator is talking about Dhoni's century. Has he completed his century? Someone is asking. Fill in the blanks. Dhoni has 96 plus something is equals to something runs. How many runs do these players need to complete a century? Okay, so I think for the first one also they are talking about how many more runs does Dhoni need. Dhoni has 96 runs, only one ball left, he will complete his century. So in one ball he has to complete his century. And what has he scored suddenly? He has scored a 6 more. That means if he has 96 and he has scored a 6 more, he has played a sixer. So 96 add 6 we have to do over here. So we can do 96 add 6. 6 add 6 is a 12. 9 add 1 is 10. That means Dhoni has scored 102 runs, and yes, he has completed his century. Do you know why I am saying that he has completed his century? Because in a century we have 100 as our number. One century means 100. So over here Dhoni has scored more than 100 runs. That means he has completed his century. Okay, now the next question says that we have to make these players complete their century. We have to write how many runs do they need to in order to complete a century. So we have player 1 who has scored 93 runs and he needs to complete his century. So what do you think? How many more runs will he need to complete the century? So here also we can do 100 take minus 93. if we do 100 minus 93, we would get the number of runs this player will need in order to complete the century, that is 100 runs. So 100 minus 93 is a 7. That means the first player needs 7 more runs in order to complete his century. If we move on for the second one, he has 97 uh, runs. So 97 runs means he would have to do again 100 minus 97, which is equal to 3. So that means this player needs 3 more runs in order to complete his century. Then the next person has 89 runs. Okay, so we would again do 100 minus 89. If we do 100 minus 89, then we would have to do the column subtraction, or if you know mental calculation, you can do it straight away. So here we have a 10 and this is 9. So 10 minus 9 is 1 and 9 minus 8 is 1. So that means 11. So player 3 needs 11 more runs in order to complete his century. Let's come for the last one, player 4. Oh, this person is very close to his century. Can you see? This person has 99 runs. So that means he needs just one more run to get to 100 runs. That means his century. Okay, so these are all the runs that these players need in order to complete their century. Now let's move on and see what we have further. After 99 we go on like this. See, this is a 99 and this tortoise is walking. So after 99 he would lead to 100. Then it would go 101, 102. If we start writing further, we will have 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, oh sorry, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120. This is how this would keep going, right? Okay, so here we have to fill in the blanks. We have 99 to 112, 195 to 206. Let's try reading the numbers written over here one by one, and let's try understanding them in words as well. The first number is a 99. So can you see how that's written in words? N-I-N-E-T-Y, N-I-N-E, 99. The second one is 100, so 1, O-N-E, 1, and 100, H-U-N-D-R-E-D. The next one is 100, 101, so 101. Now we have to fill in the next one. So 100, 2. The next one would be 102. As we move on, I'm trying to make this a bit small so that it doesn't occupy the other spaces. Okay, no issues. Let's move on. 103 we have, then we have 104, and here it's written 105. So if we write that in number, I would write that as 105. Now the next one is 106. So we can write that as 106 is already written. The next one is 107. So we can write that as 107. 107. Then we have 108. And at last we have 112. So I would write that as 112. 112. Let's move on for a bit higher numbers like 195. So 195, can you see it's written as 100 and then 95. And remember, this hyphen comes between 90 and 5, not in between any other number. It comes only between, like when it's a two-digit number like 25, 84, 76, 59. So all such numbers will have a hyphen between them. Basically, the first word should end with a ty, and then after that we should have a hyphen. So over here we have 196, 197, 198, and here the next one is 199. So I would write that as 199. Then it comes to 200, 201, and then we have the next one. Both are missing, which we have to fill. As we can see, the next one is 203. So in between 201 and 203, what do we have? We have 202, and that we can write as 202. 202. Then the next one is 203, and then we have 204. So we can write that over here as 204. Then we have 205, and the next one is 206. So I would write that as 206. 206. And at last, 206. Guess how many more to make a triple century? Okay, that's a tricky question. Mr. Ant is asking. This is Mr. Ant, right? Oh. Over here, Mr. Ant is using his mind, and he is trying to think about how much more does 206 need to make a triple century. Now, do you know what is a triple century? As you remember, if in the previous slides I have told you that century means 100, right? If a century means 100, so double century would be double the 100, that is 200, right? And in the same way, triple century means triple the 100, that is 300. So that means Mr. Ant is thinking about 300 over here. Now he says that 206 has to go till 300. How much more do we need to add to 206 in order to get to 300? Let's see how we can do that. We can write 206 over here. We have to add something, so we can make a box over here, and then the answer that we are getting is 300. So we need to get 300 if we add something to 206, and we have to find out how much do we need to add in this. So here what we can do is we can try the normal inverse method. So we need to get 6 add something, we need to get a 0. So we know that 6 add nothing can give us a 0, but 6 add something can give us a 10, and that is 4. So 6 add 4 gives us a 10, and then this 1 is carried on to the next the tens column. Now we know that 1 add nothing would give us another 0, but we can think this 0 is again a 10. So 1 add 9 can give us a 10, and this 1 is again carried on to the next one. 2 add 1 is already a 3. That means 206 would get added 206 would get added to another 94, and we would get 300, right? Okay, we have another way to get to our answer, which is a bit easier than this one. We can straight away do 300. This is basically the inverse of addition. Addition we had to do over here, so the opposite of addition is subtraction. So I am doing 300 subtract 200, or 300 minus 206. So again I would do the same thing. 10 minus 6 is a 4. 9 minus 0 is a 9, and this would become 2. So 2 minus 2 is a 0. So we get 94. So over here, Mr. Ant, you need 94 runs to reach to a 300. That is triple century, right? Okay, let's move on and learn further. Top 10 scores in the Cricket World Cup. So we have these players and we have their scores written in the table. The first question says CK just missed his century. How many runs did he need to make a century? Let's see how many scores did CK have. CK had 99. Oh, so close to a century. So how many runs did he need to make a century? He needs just one more run in order to make a century. Then we have next something and something scored almost equal runs. Okay, let's see, do we have any two people who have scored runs that are really closer to each other or almost equal? APG has 128, AS has 100, CK has 99, DM has 162, K SP has 152, then we have 178, 105, 141, 112 and 127. Okay, so as we can see that, over here, APJ, he has scored 128, while VVS over here has scored 127 runs. So, don't you see, they are very close to each other, their numbers are very close to each other. So, we can say that APS and VVS have almost the equal runs, since their runs are very close to each other. Rest all have quite far away. If we talk about, let's say, you might question me that this one, AS and CK, okay, have a look at AS and CK, they have just a difference of 1. So we can say AS and CK have almost equal runs. We can write A S C K. They have almost equal runs. And if we talk about APJ and VVS, they have a difference of just 1 run. So we can write APJ and VVS as well. So APJ and VVS, they have also a difference of 1 score. Then rest of them are quite far from each other, so we can leave that. Now let's move on for the third question. Someone scored a complete century, no less, no more. Oh, okay. As we discussed on the previous slide, century means 100. So we can see AS, he has scored exactly a century. So we can write AS. More runs scored by any batsman are something. So, do we have any batsman that has more runs than the rest of them? Let's see. We have a batsman as MD, and he has scored 178 scores, which is more than any of the other scores on the scoreboard. That means MD is the person who has scored the most, right? Let's move on. Someone and someone have a difference of just 1 run between them. Oh, we have many such people. We have AS and CK, who have a difference of just 1 run. Then we have another set, that is APJ and VVS. They also have a difference of just 1 run. Now someone has scored 2 more than 1.5 century. Okay, so let's see. 2 more than 1.5 century. What does 1.5 century mean? We know that 1 century means 100. So a half of 1 century would be how much? Half of 1 century would be 50. So 1.5 century means 1.5 century means 150 runs, right? So 150 runs would be scored, would be a 1.5 century, and according to the question it says someone has scored two more than 1.5 century. Two more than 150 is 152. That means KSP has scored 152 scores, which is two more than 1.5 century. So this was all about this slide. Let's move on and see what we have further. Okay, so over here we have again some counting, but now it's about skip counting. So let's see how we work on that. Here we have Mr. Rabbit. Wow, how did you do that? Okay, let's see. Mr. Rabbit is on 10. He's jumping. He gets on 20, then 30, then 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and at last he reaches 200. Oh, Mr. Rabbit is sitting on 10 only. Sorry. Mr. Tortoise has reached till 100. That is finish. Easy, just skip in tens. Okay, Mr. Tortoise is telling that it's so easy. We have to just skip in tens and we have got to 100. So, what has Mr. Tortoise did over here? He is just simply adding a 10 on to every number. So, like let's say the first number where the rabbit is sitting is 10. Adding another 10 to that number would give us a 20. Now the next number is 20. Adding another 10 to that number gives us 30. 30. Adding another 10 gives us 40. 40. Adding another 10 gives us 50, and this is how it would keep on going. So here we are counting in tens, or we are simply adding a 10 more to the previous number. Now let's see what is the first one over here. How is it done? Okay, let's begin with the first one. So we would go down. This is the way we have to go. So let's start with the first one. It says 10, 20, 30. Add another 10 to 30 is 40. And add another 10 to 40 is 50. Then 60, 70, 80, 90, and at last we have 100. In the same way, let's try the next one. We have 110. So the next one would be 120. We have 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, and 200 are already given. Then the next one is 310. So we have the next one as 320, 330, 340, 350, 360, 370, 380, 390, and at last we have 400. Now over here, the last one, we have the first number missing. So we have to think of that number and then move on. So can you see the second number is 720, which means if we have the second number as 720, that's increased by a 10 and then we have got to 720. So if we go back, if we like, let's say we don't know this now first number, but we have added a 10 onto this number and we have got 720. In order to go back to this number, in order to go back and find this number, what should we do? We should do the opposite again, minus. We can do 720 minus 10, and that would be 710. So that means the first number over here is 710. Then we have 720 and then we would again go on in the same way. 730, 740, 750, 760, 770, 780 is already done for us, so 790, and at last add another 10 to that is an 800. So these are the numbers, the answers that we would get. Now count in 50 up in a jiffy. Okay. So let's see, this time we have to count in 50 the same way as we counted in tens in the previous question. So again, simple, we have to simply go on adding another 50 to our numbers every time. So I would show you how to do that with a few questions, and the rest of them we would simply do that. So the first one is 200. Can you see, if we add another 200 to add another 50 to 200, we would get 250. So add another 50 to 250, we would get 300, right? Then add another 50 to 300, we would get 350. Add another 50 to 350, we would get 400. Add another 50 to 400, we would get 450, and this is how it keeps on going. So I can fill in the missing numbers now. 200, then we have 250, then we have 300, then 350 is already done, we have 400, we have 450, and at last 500 is already done for us. That's easy, right? Now let's come to the next one, 500. So I can write 500, add another 50, would be 550. 550, add another 50, would be 600. 600, add another 50, would be 650. 650, add another 50, would be 700. 700, add another 50, would be 750. And this is how it keeps on going. 750, add another 50. Oh, add another 50 would be 750. So if my first number is 550, add another 50 is a 600. Then we have 650 and add another 50 is a 700. Then add another 50, 750, and add another 50 to 750 would be a 800. So this is how we count in 50s. Okay. So this was about counting in 50s. So there's another question down. How far can you go like this? So what do you think? If we just keep on counting in tens or counting in hundreds, how far can we go this way? Is there any limit? No, there's no limit to such numbers. We can go on and on and on till infinity. There's no end of numbers. So we can go on till infinity. What is the biggest number you can call out? Okay, the biggest number you can call out. Is there any number that you can call out which is the biggest and there's no number bigger than that? No, we can't call out any such number. So the answer for the first one is till infinity. We can go till infinity, and beyond that it would never end. And what is the biggest number you can call out? There's no such biggest number. There's no such biggest number. There's no such biggest number. We can't call out, we can't get any number that we can say is the biggest of all, and and this is the end of the numbers. We can't end our numbers, right? Okay, so this was all about fun with numbers chapter that we have done. We would continue with this one in the next session, and till then, if you liked our session, please like the channel, subscribe,